Hello, people. Welcome to Illo Talk. I am Corey Kerr, and I have been an artist on YouTube for a number of years, and there's links and stuff, but I've never been a YouTuber. So I am announcing today that I am going to become an art YouTuber. My first video will be me painting a toilet seat with my toes while stabbing myself in the eye with a sharpened number 2 pencil and dancing to a trending TikTok song. I'm kidding, of course, but there are plenty of channels that do that if you are interested in that. I would rather talk about the productivity of art than the performative nature that is adjacent to art. Anyway, and having said that, I want to talk today about what this newsletter is and what I'm doing, and I have a new comic for you. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then go check out the newsletter at coreykerr.com/email. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about there. But I was reading a book by Cory Doctorow recently, and he points out that the monopolistic practices and anti-competitive practices are the problem. And it's true. If you look at what Facebook and Google and a lot of the big giant tech companies have done or been allowed to do, they have squashed, killed, bought up, undermined their competitors in such a way that we are not allowed to have competition. That basically all of the search goes through one company on the internet. And that these companies are so powerful that they give us subpar products and that we put up with their abuses because it feels like we don't have any other option. A quote from his book: Facebook combined surveillance with lax antitrust enforcement. He's saying there that the government stopped busting up in monopolies and things like that, to spot the competitive threat of Snapchat on its horizon and then take decisive action against it. Facebook's surveillance capitalism let it avert competitive pressure with anti-competitive tactics, right? And so they basically did all kinds of really underhanded things to just completely destroy an up-and-coming competition. Facebook is not a good app anymore. It is a mess, and yet it feels like it's just always going to be there, that it's inevitable. And they have so much money and so much power and are allowed to do monopolistic things, even though those things should be and are illegal, that there are no competitors that would come up to take them out or to take a market share from them or to force them to stop behaving the way that they're behaving. And this isn't just Facebook. This is most tech companies. He goes on to say, Facebook users still want privacy. Facebook hasn't used surveillance to brainwash them out of it. But they can't get it because Facebook's surveillance lets it destroy any hope of a rival service emerging that competes on privacy features. And so there are companies out there are apps out there are social networks out there that are based on protecting your privacy, that are based on individual liberties, that are based on basically core function of letting us do the thing that we do without having to pay the price of the invasion of our minds and our feelings and our data. In addition to this, if you look at what's going on, it's not just that I have decided to let these major billionaires take my data. It's that by opting in to do some of the things and interact with some of those things, I also give up the data of my friends and my family. And so the social graph that was happening really early on, when you put all your contacts into a social media network so that they can suggest people that you might know, whatever, they take that data, and if they have hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of different data points, then they can map out who knows who from where and what. There's a lot of information that a machine learning algorithm can figure out just based on the numbers and names that are in your phone. And that information, the people in your phone did not opt in to have their data be given to these billionaires. That wasn't a choice that they made. Anyway, so today's comic is about kind of anti-competitive practices. That we go in for a service and, I want to be notified when, let's say, for example, that you guys want to be notified when I do something or whatever, as an example, right? I want to know when Corey Kerr, makes another comic or produces another animated short or something like that, right? Well, to do that, we're told the lie that it's inevitable that you have to also give up your privacy and your relationship status and your innermost thoughts and feelings and your political leanings and your religious beliefs, that those have to be data mined and sold to the highest bidder, and that you have to be advertised to for you simply to be notified of something. That's what this comic is about. Because there were competitors, and the guy says, well, I'll just go to one of your competitors. And, the joke at the end of the comic is, well, you might have trouble doing that because I've killed them all. And that's kind of the idea, is we don't live in a competitive environment in a capitalistic society if that capitalism is mutated to the point where we allow giant monopolies to completely destroy their competition. That isn't a market that we've been okay with. Anyway, just some rambling thoughts on that. So hopefully you're enjoying the comic. This is the second one that came out. If you want to see the first one, you can go back in the archives, or you can always look at my website and go to CoreyKerr.com/YOM, which stands for Ye Old Modernity. And that's what's going on there, and you can see some other things. So now I'm going to talk about what is this newsletter, and what are we doing with it, and what do you guys want to do with it? So I wanted to go through and talk about what I'm planning on doing with this newsletter and what I'm not planning on doing with this newsletter. So what is this newsletter going to be? Well, I like to figure that out together. So if you guys have any thoughts, let me know. You can comment, or you can hit me up on social media or whatever. But you can comment right in this email newsletter if you're reading this on Substack. I'd like to know what you'd like to see. But here's some things that I was thinking of, and I'll kind of list them here and talk about each one. So obviously, recent work that I've finished. This is the stuff that I'd normally put on social media, which I still might, but I think the newsletter is going to be my first thought, and then all the other stuff is going to come after that. So work that I finished, or work in progress, like work that I'm working on. And I like to show kind of behind the scenes stuff, but I'm going to separate those into two different categories. Book recommendations and reviews. So I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I read a lot of comics. Joshua Kemble and I did a show for a while where we had a couple guests, Gary Hodges and Scott Cirkland came on as well, where we did book reviews. And I'd like to kind of dig into the archives of that and share those links and talk about those things, but also do new reviews. And I would like a forum to where I'm talking about the books that I like. I read a lot of audiobooks, and I don't have much of an outlet for talking to people about the audiobooks that I've read. And I would love to introduce people to some of these books because they are great. So probably be doing that. Mocking things? I don't know what I mean by this as a category other than I like to make fun of stuff. So there'll be some of that. I think in this newsletter, I'll have a little blurb about art YouTubers. It's all in good fun, not mean-spirited. Creative practices is one of the things that I'm trying to do. Like most artists and musicians and writers and people that are trying to live a creative life, is to strike a balance. I think you could become very creative to the point of driving yourself insane by, stripping off all your clothes and living naked in the woods. Be super creative by not being distracted by technology and life in general. Or on the flip side, just burn yourself out, throw yourself into your work so much that you have no energy or anything. In between those two options, there is this balance of living like a normal adult life. I have a family and got 3 kids and a job, and I do my art on the weekends and in the evenings, and try to maintain a good marriage and be a good dad and have a social life and stuff. And so I want to talk about how things that I'm doing that are working, things that I've tried that have not worked, and little things. And I've just noticed as I focus on and kind of articulate or process out loud things that are going on in my life, that I'm able to kind of better solidify and analyze the benefits and the downsides of the choices I've made. And so it's kind of this introspection. And I will say this, any of these sections that you're like, that sounds super boring, just skip them. You know, you don't have to, there's still going to be good stuff in the newsletter, and you don't have to read or listen to every single thing. There will be transcripts of the audio so that you can kind of like skip around if you want. Then I was thinking of warnings or suggestions about privacy and tech. One of the things that I'm really into is I love technology, and I love a lot of the stuff that's going on and the abilities that it gives us to create and interact with each other and connect with each other. I also hate things that invade personal liberties and destroy societies and break down humanity and cause problems. And so there's this balance for somebody like me who is a tech enthusiast, but is also a privacy rights activist. And I don't think that you have to sacrifice one for the other. I don't believe that you have to, delete all your social media accounts and never talk to anybody online to be able to enjoy that. But I also believe that there's a lot of garbage going on and a lot of Machiavellian, underhanded, deceitful practices that are happening in the upper levels of government and tech companies that should be pointed out. So I'll talk a little bit about that and about what you can do about things. And then I was thinking software tips and tricks and tutorials. I'm a heavy user of several programs, and I like to kind of push stuff to the limits to kind of see if I can break it or how far I can push it to make it do things. And I don't know, some people might find that interesting. And so I'm going to do that as well. And those will be not really, I don't have the time to do the types of tutorials that are really in depth and step by step and everything. And so a lot of that is going to be just me kind of talking through it, maybe a couple screenshots, but it's not going to be like a full-on video tutorial, which I have many of. And if you want to see those, you can go to my YouTube channel or go to coreykerr.com/videos, and you'll see a number of playlists like the AI to AE or the vector graphics playlist or the uncut videos. Those are all pretty helpful things. And then I'd like to spotlight friends, readers, fans. I'd like little shout outs and have this be a place where people can find out about more than just me, but artists that I come across that I really like, or artists that I know that I really like, or many of you have reached out as I've launched this newsletter to show me your artwork. And I love that. I love seeing it. And I'd love to share the ones that really stand out to me. Obviously, I can't do a ton of that, but I would like to do a little bit of it. Now, all of this, let's talk about the production of this newsletter, because I want to set reasonable expectations here. If I do this as a highly polished, highly produced, well thought out, and well edited, kind of like show where it's all video and I've edited it and I spend 6 hours editing, then it's not going to be consistent. I'm not going to get to it. I'll burn out on it really quickly. A lot of people that are doing those types of things have teams of people that help them do those things. And I don't have teams of people. I've got me, and that's it. And like I said, I've got a lot of stuff on the table, and I'm not super interested in being a content creator. I'm kind of more and more becoming disenfranchised with the concept of content creation. I'd like to produce artwork. And we can have a big debate of if or whether there is a difference of that and what that is. But I have played the game, sometimes well, sometimes not well, of trying to rank in social media and do the things. And I'm just totally uninterested in that now. I am moving away from the idea of content creation, the idea of making stuff with the intention of pleasing the algorithm or getting it shared or following trends or whatever. And so that's not the purpose of this newsletter. Really, the purpose of this newsletter is to circumvent that, is to kind of move around those things and just give the people who are interested in my work and work that's like mine an opportunity to see it if they want to see it, without having to go and check a box on Instagram to say that, this is a favorite account. Please show me this. And then sometimes they do, or sometimes they don't. Or on YouTube, click the bell and say that you want to get, what type of notifications you want to get. And then YouTube still sometimes shows you those notifications and sometimes doesn't. This is a way that you are guaranteed to see what I want you to see without missing it. And that's it. And if you're down for that and you don't want to miss stuff, this is for you. And if you don't, I totally get it. It's fine. I understand that people have, flooded inboxes and life is busy and stuff comes at you fast and often. And so I will never begrudge anybody for unsubscribing or whatever. But also, if you're interested in this, I'd love this to be a place where we have conversations about things. And if there are, recently, a friend of mine, Gary Hodges, sent me a podcast episode that was talking about a topic that I thought was very interesting. And I never would have come across that unless he shared that with me. And he thought of it because I talk about the dangers of invasive technology that monitors. And it was about the possibility in the near future of having workforces have brain monitoring as part of the workforce. There's things that can tell whether you're paying attention or things like that. And massively invasive. Anyway, I never would have come across that. And so if you guys come across stuff and you're like, hey, Corey would probably like this, please leave a comment. I would love to read it or listen to it or watch it. And if that gets really popular, I can't read and watch everything, but there's quite a few things that I would love to come across that I don't. So, and hopefully I can introduce you guys to some of those things, but kind of rambling. Generally speaking, here's what I'm talking about, is I want this newsletter to be something that brings value to people, but also I want it to be something that's sustainable for me. And so if it's unsustainable in the level of production, I won't be able to do it. And I don't have a team and I can't afford a team. And so there's just certain limitations of money and time that we all have. And I have those limitations as unfortunately part of this newsletter. So I don't know why I'm saying this other than I guess I'm trying to set expectations appropriately. This is not going to be super polished or edited. It's going to be kind of unscripted and more conversational. So if you're cool with that, stick around. If you are excited about that and think other people might be excited about it, then by all means, please share this with them. And yeah, so move on to the sections of this newsletter now. I wanted to give you a quick update on Shades. Shades is the live action animated, I don't know how to describe that. Part of it's animated, part of it's live action. Mixed. Is it mixed media when it's a film? It's a short film that I animated with a team of students and that I shot with a friend of mine, Christian Mullum. And I wanted to give you a quick update on that. So the footage is shot. The animations are finished and edited. The footage is being edited. It has been color graded. And so all I have left to do is kind of put that together, animate it, or put that together, kind of add some effects and things, cut a little bit of narration for one of the infomercials that's going to be in the commercial, in the short film. And then my cousin, Bryson Loftmiller, is going to be doing the sound editing and composition or composing for that. And so that's going to be done hopefully soon, but I'm also traveling a bit. So I will be a little bit out of the loop over the next couple months, in and out. So, but yeah, that's going well and it's looking really good and I'm excited for you guys to see it. So stick around and stay tuned for that. I've also started a webcomic. If you were around for the last newsletter, you could see the first comic strip It's going to be something that I draw as ideas strike me, and like most creative things, as soon as I started doing it, I immediately started getting a lot of ideas for it, and so I've actually written, I don't know, half a dozen of them, and I've got another one about 80% drawn, and I intended for it to be really quick, but each one is taking about 4 to 6 hours minimum. So it's not super fast, but it's faster than like a graphic novel style comic book. The comic strip, where I'm trying to keep it to 1 to 5 panels, trying to keep them square just so that there's kind of a format to it. And I'm reusing things. I'm breaking some rules on this, my own personal rules, where normally I wouldn't reuse artwork. I'm doing that, but I'm doing it in a way that I feel like isn't going to be distracting from the comic itself. And I feel like I would rather get a lot more of those ideas and jokes out there than, follow some arbitrary rules for myself that I have to ink everything and pencil everything from scratch every time I make anything, which has kind of gotten into my way in the past. So there's a bit of a balance there. I don't think I will do that type of thing for other projects. But for this project, I'm going for volume, while maintaining kind of a level of quality in the artwork. And so I'd like to get more out. And so you got to sacrifice some things. And one of those things is some of the backgrounds are going to be reused. So you'll start, I'm hoping actually that you start to see that. And they do that in the animation all the time, where, once you draw, that guy's office and, this castle and whatever, as a background, and then there's another scene that happens there, they don't redraw it, like in a lot of comics, we would redraw those. And I've done that a number of times. And I still feel like there's huge benefits to doing that, especially re-inking things. But in like a live action film, it's not like they rebuild the set every time they turn the camera off, And so there's some pluses and minuses. I would kind of be interested to hear what you guys think. I know that some of you noticed on the first one. I'm curious, did it take you out of the story? Did you care? Did you notice at all that I was repeating some stuff? I'm kind of curious on that. But this, that's kind of what we're doing with that. And that project is called Yield Modernity. I wanted to talk about why I named it that. So ye old, spelled with an E, obviously is kind of throwing us back into kind of olden times. And it's kind of like set in like a medieval era. That's a kind of a nondescript medieval era. I'm not picking a particular thing. It's not going to be historically accurate at all. And I'm setting up a world that doesn't have a lot of rules so that I can kind of play in it. So we'll kind of see how that develops. Modernity is a term that I came across reading Cory Doctorow. He's a writer that writes fiction and nonfiction and focuses specifically on different things about like technology and privacy and some of those things. Pretty interesting guy. I don't agree with everything that he's saying, but I do like a lot of the things that he mentions. So he's worth reading. Anyway, this term modernity is talking about kind of a modern era where there has been a shift away from societies and towards individuality. And so, back in the day, human life was kind of disposable. And unfortunately, in parts of the world, it still is. It wasn't very well valued. People, they were, kind of their lives were thrown away in war, or in agriculture or in labor or whatever, both physical labor and birthing labor. People are just kind of disposable. As medicine got better and technology got better, and we moved away from the idea of kings and queens being innately better than everyone else because they're, quote unquote, blessed of God to be better than everybody else, which were real thoughts that people used to have. We actually used to think that that type of worship was normal and appropriate. We still do that a little bit today, but I don't think it's the ruling class of government as much as it might be the ruling class of billionaires that we kind of worship. And there's this assumption that somehow they're better than us because of whatever. Anyway, without getting into all that, the idea of ye old modernity is I'm going to be taking modern things and setting them in ancient times, with the hope of having that type of absurdist satire really point out the weirdness of some of the things that we've come to accept as normal. For example, one that I'll do in the future that I haven't done yet is the alchemist and the witch. So I've got these different characters that are going to represent different ideals or things or whatever. And so there's anytime that I'm using technology that people generally don't understand, I'm going to represent that as magic. I came across an idea years ago that the only real difference between sci-fi and fantasy is that is the difference between technology and magic, which is there is no difference. It's something that is kind of not really understood, and everybody just kind of does some hand waving away to like, yeah, it's technology, and you just kind of whatever. And maybe they throw in a string of some magic words, whether those be technobabble or some sort of incantation to kind of add validity to the idea that the magic is magic or the technology is technology. But really, magic and technology are just things that do incredible things that we don't really understand. And so I'm hoping that by placing modern things into ancient times and having that technology represented as a form of magic or alchemy or wizardry or sorcery, that we can kind of shine a light in some of those dark corners and look at some of the absurdity of it. For example, I'm going to have the alchemist and the witch combine their forces and come up with a magic rectangle that gives people eating disorders and makes them feel bad about themselves, but they're also able to watch videos of cats. And so they'll kind of, obviously mocking smartphones and things, which I'm recording this on right now. So welcome to my life as a semi-hypocrite, as I use the technology that I openly mock constantly, which I don't find hypocritical, but it always feels a little weird. Anyway, so that's ye old modernity. I will have some of those things. We'll be talking more about things, and I'll probably discuss why I wrote and drew that comic, because it does take basically a full day's labor to do it. And so why am I spending my time doing those things? Last week's was about, I came across the conflict of liberties, right? I was reading some things that Abraham Lincoln was writing, and there's this kind of really obscure speech where he talks about the wolf and the sheep. And so in the newsletter, I quoted that and things like that. And so you can go back to last week's newsletter and kind of take a look at that and see what I was talking about. And this week's, I will go over when I finish it. As I'm recording this, it's not done yet. I'm going to be recording these little snippets as they go. You guys tell me in the comments. I'm kind of curious. Would you like more of these, or would you like less of them that are much longer? Because I'm already up over 20 minutes if you combine all the audio that I've recorded. And I don't know if you'd rather have a 7-minute chunk here and an 8-minute chunk there, or if you'd like 20 minutes once a week or something. I don't know. But let me know. So. This is Illo Talk. Tech companies want you to believe that their actions are inevitable, unavoidable, inescapable, inexorable, predetermined, fated, because you can't fight the inevitable by definition. It will not happen no matter what you do, but they're lying. They want you to believe that so that we don't stop them. Google and YouTube have been illegally collecting children's private data for years. And just recently, the FTC called them out on it, and they turned around and they blamed the creators on their platforms. for them collecting data. It has never been about the content of the videos or the intended audience of the content. The problem is the illegal collection of private data, and they continue to blame us for it. And they continue to tell us that this type of thing is inevitable. And the inevitability of something is something that I have a huge problem with, because if we believe that something is inevitable, then it feels futile and pointless to be able to try to even do anything about it. It's not inevitable. I do not believe that we have to give up our privacy and our individuality and the sanctity of our minds to be able to connect with each other digitally and to be able to use technology to socialize and to entertain ourselves and to educate ourselves. Those two things can be separated, easily can be separated. But if everybody believes that they can't, if we believe the lie that it's inevitable, then it will happen.